It's finals week for the Crown Championship Global Series. $15,000 awaits the winner of each region's double elimination tournament. This week on Tournament Talk, we look at the final standings from round robin play. Clash with Ash joins me on the couch, and we preview the most anticipated matchups of the spring season finals. Tournament Talk starts now.
The Crown Championship Series is going to crown the best player in Clash Royale.
This is our first ever global tournament.
There are a million people.
Asia, Europe, Russia, Oceania.
The highest level of competition.
Playing this tournament for $1 million.
Rarely get to find the true champion.
These players crave respect. They want the achievement. They want the accomplishment. Come
November,
November, I cannot wait to see who's going to be wearing that golden crown.
Welcome back, Clash Royale fanatics, to the final weekend of the Crown Championship Global Series. I'm Rumham in a tuxedo, and this is Tournament Talk. Tournament Talk is your one-stop shop for everything Crown Championship related. And as you can see in this final week, we've got so much to talk about. There is no time to waste, so let's jump right into our top story. Favorites dominate their region. Coming into the spring season, everyone had predicted C. McHugh, Surgical Goblin, and Adrian Piedra would dominate their respective regions, and dominate they did, as all three players secured the #1 spot, the best possible seeding for them heading into the spring finals. In North America, C. McHugh came in with the strongest pedigree of potentially any player in any region. After taking a Week 1 forfeit, people were worried that he might not finish in preferential seeding. He proved them wrong, going 5-1 in his other matches, including defeating then undefeated 10-2 to secure that #1 spot in North America. Over in the European region, Surgical Goblin dominated his competition, only dropping one round the entire tournament. Defeating big names like Royale, Nem Sensei, and Adam along the way, Surgical Goblin is the heavy favorite moving into the spring finals. Down in the Latin American region, hometown hero Adrian Piedra was the pride of Mexico coming into this tournament. After a shaky Week 1 where he dropped a match, some people questioned if he'd be able to replicate the success of his peers in other regions. He proved them wrong with an incredibly strong finish the remaining weeks and finishes #1 after defeating Achin in a tiebreaker match. While the three favorites secured their #1 spots, it was definitely not the only story in the Crown Championship. Let's take a quick look at the most explosive matches from Week 3.
For the past 3 weeks, the top Clash Royale players have battled for glory in the Crown Championship.
Boom! This is absolutely the biggest sort of battle that you can imagine.
Last weekend, round robin play determined who is headed home.
Is this the last day, do or die?
And who will battle for the spring season title.
Anything can happen in the next 3 minutes.
What a fireball by
Rice.
Nem Sensei feeling confident.
In the European region, Dutch favorite Surgical Goblin continued his reign at the top.
A rocket from Surge will finish things off, and he claims victory again.
Relying on a minor poison deck, the Goblin swept his final round-robin matches, 6-0.
I'm the #1 player in EU, and the crown will be mine.
While the Goblin earned the #1 seed, Donkey Kong is right behind him.
Donkey Kong with the hard punish.
DK locked the 2nd seed with a win over Royale, employing a 3 Musketeer deck and a surprise last-minute heal spell to close the deal.
Whoa, heal spell from Donkey Kong. First time we've seen it in the game. This Battle Ram is dangerous. Battle Ram on the side tower. Yes! Donkey Kong gets it. Oh, pounding his chest. Look at that beast.
In the European region, Nem Sensei, Baron, Royale, and Adam joined Surgical Goblin and Donkey Kong in the spring finals, while the bottom two, Danny and Suarez, have been eliminated from the competition.
It's about to happen.
Week 3 start now.
Over in the Latin American region, a crowded field fought to the end for a spot in the spring final.
People are starting to go home. This is the serious part of the tournament, so we need to take care.
Regional powerhouse Achin began the day atop the leaderboard, But Adrian Piedra had plans of his own.
Impresionante!
Utilizing three musketeers, Giant and Heelspell, Adrian engineered a deck perfectly built to counter Achin and knock him from the #1 spot.
La batalla primera de este round robin entre Adrián Achin y King Zhao. Mis felicidades.
With a shake-up at the top, King Zhao took advantage, winning 4 consecutive matches and slipping into the 2nd seed.
Espera, Ay, la lanza de ese duende.
Heading into the spring final, it's anyone's game. While Piedra, Zhao, and Achin have the inside track, the Phenomenal and Fantini have been eliminated. In the North American region, tournament favorite Sima Q stumbled at the start with a surprising loss to Rice.
Rice, 2-0s! Colin McHugh!
Wow.
Even though he's a good player, I'm just better than him, obviously.
But CMC quickly rebounded, storming back to win his remaining matches and locking up the top seed.
CMC, he did what he does.
Meanwhile, Tin2 and Oxalate battled for the 2nd seed in the region.
Oxalate's got a chance to make his case. A lot of pressure on this next match.
And Oxalate continued to impress.
Oxalate takes game #1.
Using a powerful Giant deck to beat down Tin2, Oxalate continued his steady climb up the leaderboard.
It's hammer time for Oxalate. He hammered down Tin2.
Capitalized on some of his misplays, and I think overall I had the better deck.
At the end of round-robin play, Sima Q, Oxalate, Tin2, Batman, Rice, and Lucifer advanced to the North American Spring Finals, while Unstoppable and Godslayer are headed home.
This is absolutely crazy.
The Crown Championship Spring Finals are almost here, and the top 6 in each region are poised to battle for the title.
This is what it has all come down to.
Who will walk away as spring season champion and earn the $15,000 prize?
Here we go. Let's do it.
Top 6, I'm coming at you.
The Eagle is soaring.
Let's play.
Week 3 had some of the most exciting Clash Royale tournament gameplay I have ever seen. Rivalries were born, dreams were crushed, and the standings were finalized. To break down the standings of all 3 regions, I've invited Clash with Ash here into the locker room. How you doing, buddy?
Rom, it is great to be here. I'm doing great, exciting indeed. There was a lot of action. Can't wait to talk about it.
Let's get right into it.
Let's do it.
Over in North America, after the tiebreakers shook out, we got Sima Q in that #1 spot, and at the bottom, Unstoppable and Godslayer are heading home. 2 players in the middle, though, who I think are very interesting and hard to predict, are Tin2 and Rice.
It is very hard evaluating these guys. Rice is a very interesting player because he beat Sima Q, he beat Oxalate, the 2 top guys, and then he lost to Unstoppable in Godslayer. So who could have predicted that, first of all? And does he have what it takes to beat the top guys? Or was it an aberration? Or was it a fluke that he lost to the bottom guys? It's just so hard to predict. We don't know what we're going to get from the guy.
Tin2's is an interesting one because he started off on such a hot streak. Started off 5-0, but then lost his last 2 matches, and then lost to those players again in the tiebreaker. He's beaten everyone except for the #1 and 2 seed. Can he, like, turn that around?
You know, you think about in baseball, like a really good pitcher comes out, and oftentimes they'll strike out everybody through the first 6 innings, and then they get a read on them, and then they're beatable. All of a sudden, they're hitting home runs off them. Is that the case with Tin2? I don't know. Like, once you find out, okay, this is what he's trying to do, he's predictable. I do think that he can make the adjustments. It's just a matter of, can he play that chess game 1 move ahead of the really top guys, you know?
Heading over to the European region, Surgical Goblin in the #1 spot, Donkey Kong in 2nd, both 6-1, the only region with 2 6-1 players at the top. Meanwhile, Suarez from Spain and Danny from Romania are heading home. 2 players who didn't come in with very high profiles, but have beyond impressed me, are Baron and Royale. Baron's a relatively new player. Royale's one of those players who's done well, but just outside the spotlight. He's taken Nem Sensei to 3 games. He took Baron to 3 games. He took Donkey Kong to 3 games. I mean, he is on the brink of being that hyper elite player, and I want to see how he performs in the final tournament.
I think that Royale is definitely in the top half of those 8 in terms of just raw skill. He's a really, really good player. He's a villain, but he's a really good player.
I'm excited for their match because it's definitely a grudge match. Like,
yes.
Royale's been BMing everybody every match. Baron,
not having it.
Not having it. Doesn't
No.
like it. He's the least happy about it.
Talk about rivalry. I think we have one there. You know, Baron not taking any crap. So I like it. I like it a lot.
Heading down to Latin America, Adrian Piedra of Team Queso takes the #1 spot. A surprising King Zhao surged up to the 2nd spot, and unfortunately, Fantini and the Phenomenal are headed home until fall season. In Latin America, so many of the players love Three Musketeers that about half the field's running Three Musketeers, and then the other half is running these P.E.K.K.A decks that feed on the Three Musketeer decks.
Three Musketeers not only is it the most popular deck, but it's also the deck with the highest winning percentage in this entire tournament, and individually in every single one of the 3 round-robin brackets that we've been covering. So, of course, if you're a player who's not going to use Three Musketeers, you have to build a deck that's really good against it, and we've seen that a lot in Latin America especially. These guys using a lot of Tornado, a lot of P.E.K.K.A, a lot of shutdown, you know, a lot of spells, a lot of direct damage, a lot of lightning, anything to shut down those 3 muskies that some of these players will take advantage of.
Well, Ash, thank you so much for joining me on the couch. It's great to have you in the locker room and talk about these finals.
Rum, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Moving right along, Surgical Goblin. You've heard so much about him. The #1 seed in Europe and one of the best players in the world. Let's meet this Team Queso superstar right now.
My real name is Frank. I'm from the Netherlands. I was born there and I still live there. And my in-game name is Surgical Goblin. I think the name Surgical Goblin fits my playstyle because I'm really precise with placements and I pick my opponents apart with surgical precision. When I was younger, I used to play badminton, pretty competitive as well. I traveled a lot to competitions, just like I do right now for Clash Royale. At one moment, I was in the top 10 in the Netherlands. I think I was able to be so successful in badminton back then because of the mindset, willing to win and willing to practice. I would say practice makes perfect. I used to play a board game which was called Strategio with my brother and my dad. The point of the game is to take down your opponent's flag. It's also a 1v1 game, just like Clash Royale, so it's sort of look-alike. When I played this with my brother and dad, I didn't always win in the beginning because, for example, I kept putting my flag here in the middle, so they took my flag really early. But when I was switching up my placements, I managed to win as well, and I think that also developed my strategic, thinking wise. Strategio really developed my patience, being patient during this game, and I think that also really helped me with Clash Royale. I think it's key to be patient in the first minute of the game, because at that moment you're trying to get information about your opponent's deck. For example, let's say he showed 2 cards, you can know what deck he's playing, so then you can adjust your playstyle.
The Barbarians, can it bring it down? 136-60, oh! Surgical Goblin!
I think it's really hard to beat me because I'm always a step ahead of my opponents, so they never know what to expect. I practice a lot with my team, Team Queso, but I also like to go to Japanese clans because they have a really interesting playstyle and a total different meta, so I can get inspired by those decks.
Surgical Goblin, standing tall, looking proud.
I think it's really important for me to bring home the crown because I spend a lot of time on the game, I practice a lot, and it shows that the practice was worth it. I'm the #1 EU player and the crown will be mine.
So that's Surgical Goblin, the #1 seed in the European region. And joining me here in the locker room is the one and the same, Surgical Goblin. How are you doing today?
Hey man, I'm doing good. How are you?
Great. Your profile has risen dramatically in the Clash Royale community over the last year. Do you think a year ago you would have predicted that your life would change so much because of Clash Royale?
No, definitely not. I just downloaded to play a fun game just from home. And I remember the first live event, I got second in that one, which I didn't expect at all. But after that I started doing my YouTube channel and I joined the esports team and those things developed. And from that moment I knew that I could get more out of this game.
You've performed really well and played so many different decks. What is your favorite deck? If you could just play one deck and win all your tournaments, what would that deck be?
Either Lockbait or Minor Control, just because they are both very consistent. I mean, of course they have counters, but you can always play your opponents. Especially with Lockbait, outcycle them, and with Minor Control you're just able to control a match. So I would definitely pick one of those.
You're known for playing a lot of mind games. You know, like when you make a good prediction, you might give them a little thumbs up and let them know that you got them. What is going through your mind when you do that? How do you know when it's the right moment to make a good prediction?
I would say I'm trying to keep track of his cycle, so I probably already know what's coming, and then giving a thumbs up just knows that he can't like read my mind.
So, final question. If you make it to Worlds, 0 to 100%, what's your confidence that you become the world champion of Clash Royale?
I would say 60, but
Alright.
I'm not sure about that.
That's pretty monster odds, though, for one player. I think you got a better than a coin flip chance at taking home that title.
Yep.
Surgical Goblin, thank you so much for joining me here in the locker room. It's always great to get your insights.
No problem, man. Happy to be here.
Next up on Tournament Talk is your part of the show. It's Community Corner, where we take the best video from the Clash Royale community and spread it around the world. Check out this week's video.
Hey everyone, Rainy here. I've been a big fan of the Clash Royale Crown Championship, and I've been following the North American bracket for a little bit. As a commentator for the Super Magic Cup as well as the Clash Royale North American Open, it's been really fun to see all these players in a new competitive environment and doing all these cool things. So as the Crown Championship is getting into the top 6 stage, I wanted to take a look at the bracket to see how these matchups may be playing out. Obviously, CMQ and Oxlade, the top 2 seeds to get a bye. This will be the matchup to watch out for. Now, typically CMQ has 2-0'd Oxlade, and so it's going to be tough for Oxlade to really make a comeback happen. I wanted to actually take a look at one of their tiebreaker games here, and I'm going to need to scrub a little bit. At one of their tiebreaker games here, it's game number 2, and you can already see that CMQ has a crossbow down. And what's really impressive to me is, obviously, unbeknownst to Oxlade, CMQ is running this crossbow deck, but it's the way that CMQ drops his first crossbow, which is so important because your opponent doesn't have that information. CMQ waits until Oxlade commits so much to the left side and uses the bare minimum to defend. CMQ opts to let his tower drop low and then use the elixir advantage that he gains, which is almost like 7 or 8 elixir advantage, to just push down Oxlade's right side tower. And you can see the poison, the graveyard, the ice golem on Oxlade's end, all invested into this push, and CMQ is just going to let those skeletons do a bunch of damage and then put down the Expo, and Oxlade is scrambling for options. He's going to drop down the ice golem, but even then, even though that's a great option to delay an Expo, he has the Inferno Dragon in place to kind of stop that, and all Oxlade is left with is one log, and CMQ ends up taking the first tower. So I think the top 6 of the Crown Championship is going to be super exciting. I'm going to be watching, hopefully you guys as well, and it's going to be fun to see who comes out of North America as a spring champion.
That was an awesome Community Corner video. The community continues to impress me with your creativity. Moving right along, the final battles are about to begin. The brackets are locked, and to go a little deeper and analyze these brackets, I've invited Full Frontage from the North American broadcast and Gregan from the European broadcast to the couch. How you doing today?
Pretty good. Yeah, I'm very good, thank you.
Let's talk North America. This is the first bracket, the first spring finals that's going to be played out. Are there any matchups that you're looking forward to in particular?
I think the most interesting match in the first round is going to be Rice versus Batman. Rice is the only person that's beaten CMQ, so I'm very curious to see that matchup and how he's going to do against Batman.
Yeah, and Batman's just getting more used to this studio environment every single week, so it'll be interesting to see whether he steps up another notch, especially after the practice he said he's going to be putting in.
So hypothetically, you can't gamble on Clash Royale, but if you could, who's the good money to win the spring finals in North America?
Batman is the unusual call here because he's gone a bit quiet, and I think going into this everyone expects him to be as dominant as he was in week 1, but he's working really hard now. He's recognized that he needs to practice a lot, and he's a very smart kid, and I think that's going to allow him to cause some upsets and potentially go on to win.
Is it biased if I say Oxlade?
Nope.
Oxlade.
All right.
I think he's going to be able to prepare so well, and I think he's looking for revenge against CMQ. That's just the kind of player he is. He's very resilient, and if it's anybody who can do it, I believe it's Oxlade.
Everyone loves an underdog, except Rumham. I'm picking CMQ to take the 15 grand home to New Jersey. Heading over to Europe, I think this might be the most stacked bracket of all the spring finals. All 6 players incredibly talented, have really impressed me over the last 3 weeks. Gregan, this is your home region. What do you think the key to this bracket's going to be? Who do you think is going to take it home?
It could be anyone. It's so tough to say where it's going to go, but I definitely feel like Surgical Goblin and Donkey Kong have shown their dominance up to this stage, only losing 1 game each.
What do these players have to do to get over the hill against the two top seeds?
Well, Surgical Goblin, I think the answer is try and be smarter than him. But you're not going to go into it with your own favorite deck and win a game because he's going to read that.
Who do you have winning the European bracket?
Donkey Kong.
Donkey Kong, all right.
I think he's just he's practicing, he's prepared, his clanmates are backing him up, so I think Donkey Kong's gonna win.
And I'm going to go with Baron. I'm a big fan of the story behind him, the fact that he's not played the game as much as the other players, and that's why I believe Baron's going to step it up for those finals and go victorious.
Heading down to the Latin American region, it's been a pretty wild couple weeks down there, and the seedings are really all over the place. I'm expecting to see a lot of Three Musketeers. We've seen that consistently each week. Three Musketeers has been one of the most played deck archetypes in the Latin American region. There are still tons of Three Musketeer players in this bracket, and maybe the most important skill will be winning a Three Musketeers mirror match.
And it's really interesting because according to Stats Royale, after week 2, when everybody was using the Three Musketeer Night Witch Bandit deck, Stats Royale said there was an 85% win rate in grand challenges. And then because of that, people started to run Fireball in a Three Musketeer deck, which is completely unorthodox. So I think Three Musketeers might be a deck to watch this week.
You've got to pick one player to win this spring finals in Latin America. Full frontage, who do you got?
King Yao. He started off kind of rocky, and then he just rose to the top. He's finished number 2. I think it would just be an incredible story for him to be able to prevail and become number 1.
Well, on my hand, I'm going to go with Atchin. He's so calm when he goes on stage. We see the motions, he goes down cross-legged, and I feel like that plays into his favor, but then again, he has got very tough competition in that number 1 and 2 seed.
That's going to do it for our bracket analysis. Thank you so much for joining me here in the locker room, Greg and in Full Frontage. It's always great when we get together and chat about Clash Royale.
Thank you very much.
Moving right along, we talked a little about Tin 2, the 3rd seed in the North American tournament. One of the strongest players in both tournament and ladder play, Tin 2 is the highest trophy level 10 in the world. If you're intrigued and want to know a little more about Tin 2, it's your lucky day. Take a look.
My real name is Tin 2, and my in-game name is a pronunciation of my actual name. I was actually born in Vietnam. I moved to the US, to Virginia, when I was 5. In Vietnam, the economy is a lot different from the US. You know, there's a lot less opportunities, which is why my parents moved to the US, so I could get a better education and live the American dream. So in the United States, there's this concept of, you know, the nerd who like reads books and, you know, studies all day. And it's not like the, you know, the popular kid at school or whatever. But in Vietnam, you know, the kid with the highest scores, the kid that performs the best is the most respected. And so everyone tries to be that kid, which is a whole lot different from here in the US. It's important to me to make my parents proud because, you know, they gave up too much, so I wouldn't want their efforts to be, you know, wasted. So I work hard. I recently just graduated from the #1 high school in the nation. I am planning on going to the University of Virginia next year. Your brain is like a muscle, you know, you always gotta keep, you know, using it, whether it's, you know, playing a game, reading a book, doing a puzzle, learning something new, you know, you always have to keep working to not fall behind. But I feel like if someone called me a nerd, I really wouldn't mind, especially, you know, in this day and age. There's nothing wrong with being a nerd, you know. You're successful, you know, you get good grades, you're probably gonna get a good job, you know, you live a happy life. It sounds great to me.
Tin 2! Boxers gloves up.
Right now, I'm definitely enjoying Clash Royale. I mean, I'm in California. If I won the entire global series, I'd be, you know, ecstatic. First of all, you know, I'd have money for college. That's a success that I hope my parents will be proud of, you know. I'm really driven by that, and it's very important to me to make my parents proud. Top 6, I'm coming at you.
So that's Tin 2 from Virginia. I love this kid. I went out to dinner with Tin 2, and he is hilarious for hours on end. One of my new favorites from the North American region. But enough about him, more about me. It's my favorite segment of the show, the only one where I get to talk until the lights go out. You know what it's called. It's Gem of the Week. Gem, 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 gem. Each week, we're gonna talk about the #1 issue that's on my mind facing the Clash Royale community. And this week, we've got a good one for you. We're talking deck diversity. The metagame of Clash Royale has never been this diverse. These 24 players have been exceptionally innovative, creating new decks every single week. We saw 21 different deck archetypes, 13 of which were played 5 times or more. The most popular deck archetypes were Three Musketeers and Graveyard, with 4 big tanks leading behind that: P.E.K.K.A, Golem, Giant, and Lava Hound, in that order. No matter what you want to play, there is a deck out there for you. Even within these archetypes, we saw a ton of experimentation and variety. Graveyard, for example, was paired with Giant for a big tank. Sometimes it was paired with Bowler and Baby Dragon to form the popular Splash Yard deck. And yet other times, there were fast cycle Graveyard decks that got the average elixir cost down to as low as 3.1. In week 1, it appeared that Night Witch was going to dominate the tournament scene, by far being the most popular card. But in the subsequent weeks, balance changes and deck innovation reduced her impact on the metagame. In fact, a ton of underrated cards were able to secure wins. Cards like Guards came back in week 3, Giant Skeleton and Sparky secured wins over some of the global elite players.
Wait, is that a Sparky? Oh my god, you're right, Nim Sensei's playing a Sparky! I don't think people were expecting that to happen.
The outcome of all this deck diversity is that no player who masters just one deck was able to do that well. The top 2 players in every region played a massive variety of decks week in and week out, making it hard to predict what they would play and counterpick their strategies. Heading into the spring finals, being able to pick your deck is going to be the most important skill for these players to work on. And with so many viable decks out there, it's anyone's guess what we'll be seeing this weekend. That's going to do it for this Gem of the Week. So, over the last several weeks, Tournament Talk has provided you with everything that you, the viewer, need to know for the spring season finals. Now, it's on the players. 6 remain in each region, and they are competing over the next week in the most important matches of their tournament career. The winning player from each region walks home with a $15,000 grand prize, and these players could not be more excited to show off their skills. That's going to do it for this week's Tournament Talk. Rumham signing off. We'll see you in 2 weeks.